At the end of the day, when currency is finished and out there, what type of impact do you want it to have? What do you want it to do?
So after Tiny came out, it had a much bigger impact than we kind of ever imagined it would. And, I think for documentary filmmakers, that's sort of the bug you catch more than the fame, and definitely not the money. But the reason you want to do it is because you want to have a positive impact on the world. And I think with currency, I don't think it's going to have a very big impact in a very tangible sense in the U.S. or Western countries. I think it could in Cambodia in terms of really showing like what's going on there and sort of the corruption angle, and like might put an end to these rule violators kind of getting away with it, and it might really help that situation if it's seen widely there. In the States, what I hope happens is that people are more aware of these situations and sort of our role in them, because one of the big things that contributes to this problem is the influx of money from NGOs down there, which is good in some respects and is well-meaning, but some of what's missing with that is understanding what's happening on the ground. So the money is either misdirected, or is funneled into some of these corrupt people's pockets. Usually, the people, the NGOs are unaware it's even happening. And so I think what I'm trying to say is like, not that I'm hoping that, NGO investment in Cambodia stops, but just that it's framed around what's really happening and not what our idea of what's happening is going on down there. And I think that this film can, to a lot of people who might be donors to those organizations, could expose kind of like a more honest portrayal of the intricacies of all the problems and how the gray area, because, going into this project, I always thought, corruption is always bad. Like in my vision of it is with these people who are sitting back and like, getting, obviously violating laws and getting money and enriching themselves and fight, meanwhile, all these other people are suffering. But really in Cambodia, corruption sometimes just looks like an informal economy, and realizing that it's really a gray, a whole like spectrum of grayness. Some of it is black and white, but a lot of it is like, well, is that really wrong? Like, there's a lot of policemen who would be considered corrupt in the US, which is, who are like stopping people for not wearing helmets on their motorcycles, asking for a $5 fine, and then, just putting it in their pocket. But what we don't realize is that those policemen are hired a lot of times, don't make very much money, but they're kind of told that this is how you augment your salary. And the question is like, we would say, oh, well, that's still wrong. But really at the end of the day, the only difference between the way we do it here is here, they take that money, they gave it to the government, who gives it back to them in a paycheck. Whereas there, they just get it and it's their paycheck, but it's still enforcing the law, right? So, once you start kind of seeing how some of that stuff works, it's a little bit harder to fully be angry. And I'm, the more I'm like less convinced of my own certainty about right and wrong in some respects, but then there is very clear cases of corruption that is wrong there. And those are the ones that we really are targeting with our film. And I think that they can change. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like, it doesn't do any NGO, any people here who want to do good in other countries any good to not have a full understanding of the complexity of the situation. Because it's so easy for us to oversimplify it by using our own Western lens and values and projecting that, rather than trying to understand what their lens and their values and the complicated nature of the issues that they're dealing with.